Hi everyone, happy Monday. Hope you have had a relaxing weekend. And I'm super excited to chat today with Felicia. So she's going to be joining us shortly here. And as always, stay tuned, keep your ears open for our chat today, and be ready for our conversation here in a second for our question at the end here. So it looks like Felicia's in the chat. We shall be getting her on in just a moment. Hello everyone. Happy Memorial Day today to those of you US friends. Again, if you don't already follow Felicia, you got it because her work is amazing. She'll be chatting today about creating empowering graffiti and her work to spread her positivity and amazingness as a graffiti artist and what she does with a lot of her recycled materials at the end, which is really exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and check my here and we'll get Felicia in the chat. Hello, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sarah Krajewski, elementary art teacher and your host of the Instagram Live. Hi, Felicia. How's it going, friend?
Hey, hi everybody. How are you?
Yeah, I love your studio space. You're like just buried in art. It's amazing.
Yes, art and colors everywhere. I'm here at my studio, 400 West Ridge Street, studio number 158, here in Franklinton in Columbus, Ohio. Hey
Nice,
guys.
nice. We're so psyched to chat with you today. Your work is amazing. We've shared a couple images from it as well, but can you just give everybody a quick recap rundown of who you are as an artist and as a person?
Well, my name's Felicia. I go by FDZ Graffiti. I am a graffiti pop muralist. So I also kind of dabble in other elements. As you can see behind me, there's a lot of different art. I custom paint instruments. I also do some fashion designing. But primarily, my art style is what I coined as visual periodicities, like post graffiti, um, like the next level, like what is the next
Nice.
evolution of graffiti art. And so with my art, I really want to portray graffiti art as a fine art form because I think that there
Yeah.
are a lot of misconceptions about it. Very often, I can't tell you when I mention like, hey, I'm a graffiti artist, people assume that it's illegal, and so they associate it to the crime of vandalism. And so part of my personal campaign is to educate the world and share my art and to honor graffiti as a specific realm of artistry. And I think in the future that we'll look back on this time period and graffiti art will be definitely a cultural staple of the times.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. There's so many opportunities I know that you have had to create work in huge ways, and some of the my favorite ones to follow along with were your recent murals and the summer spray project that you did because I know your workload has just increased within the last year or two, which is kind of like opposite of some people during the pandemic, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is
For
amazing for
sure.
you, right? Can you speak
Absolutely.
to what it's been like being an artist during this time and what Summer Spray is and what some of the other projects are that you've worked on?
Okay. Well, just to give you guys kind of like the short recap of what happened last year, it was crazy for everybody. But I think what happens in any time that there's like as a community or a nation, we are going through turmoil, the community is really like calling out to the artists. It's calling out to people who have a voice, who could speak for them. So I think that that is really what initiated um, my personal kind of like explosion of artistry and opportunity. But I think it's happening and it's continuing as well. Um, and a lot of that started with the Black Lives Matter movement, where we were participating in positive protests. So there were local organizations like GCAC, the Short North Arts District. Those guys were commissioning artists, just like during the Great Depression with Teddy Roosevelt. Like you're commissioning artists to go out and create art for the community. And I think the community really needed it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, to speak to the summer spray program, so that was put on by the Short North Arts District, where it was I'm going to get the square footage wrong. I know I am. I think it was a 12,000 square foot wall, where there were 11 artists altogether, and there was a different artist painting every weekend. And spoiler alert, they're going to do it again this year.
Yes. Are you on the list? How do they
Don't know
choose?
yet. I don't know yet, but I did submit. They just that
I
I feel like I'm a shoe-in, maybe,
hope
but we'll
so.
see.
I hope so.
So the really cool thing about that was with all of the festivals and things, everything's closed down. Every weekend they would have a different artist painting their section of the mural. So people were able to kind of walk by and have some sort of engagement. I think it was very refreshing. In that particular space, that's normally where we would have a lot of festivals at the Goodell Park. So I think the community really appreciated it. And the thing that was nice, it stayed up for a whole year.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's a way to kind of expose multiple artists at a time, right? So you're kind of working not necessarily in collaboration with each other, but it is all working towards the same goal, right? Getting out in the community, working together to fill a space, and kind of displaying all of that positivity in one main area. So correct me if I'm wrong, your piece was the last one up, so yours stayed up for a while, right?
Yes, I was the last. I had the honor of being the one to kind of like wrap up the whole
Yes.
summer spray project. So that was really exciting. It was such an honor to have that.
And what was the composition for your mural?
So there's a general theme, and it was unity. It was all about unity. And what I wanted to do is I really wanted to reflect deep within myself and kind of pull a piece out of myself where I could share it with other people. And I wanted it to be representative of a solution of all of this turmoil that was going on, was all of this conflict, and people were protesting, and there were all these terrible things happening in the world, but at the same time there were all these wonderful things as well.
Yeah.
So I felt I wanted it to be an art piece that wouldn't alienate anyone. I wanted people to look at it and see themselves. So the whole idea of the empty thought bubble, you can probably see a little bit of them over my shoulder here behind that. And there's some in that piece too. It's like asking an open-ended question. So if it's empty, you're subconsciously going to want to fill it with some type of information.
Yeah.
And if there are no parameters, then it's going to be just purely something of yourself. Now that particular piece, there's a big empty thought bubble in the middle, and on the outside, it was asking questions or making suggestions, kind of like Inception, like in trying to induce this self-reflection. And it said things like, try love, try understanding, try forgiveness, try forgiving yourself, and check your ego. So if you're trying understanding, that means like try to understand something you haven't understood before. If you're trying love, you're trying to love someone that it might be difficult, or forgive someone where it might be difficult. And more importantly, it might be really difficult for you to forgive yourself and check your ego. And I felt like everybody that was involved in all of the violence or all of the misunderstanding that's going on in the world, if they were to see that piece, it might just be a moment to just kind of like provoke the answer, because the answer's within them, and it's going to be different for everybody. It's not the answer, the solution to change is not the same for everybody, but it comes from within.
I love that. It's making someone be part of the art piece too, instead of necessarily having it just be a visual piece that we see and understand and appreciate and love, but having them think a little bit introspectively, like how can you be part of Felicia's piece? How can you be part of the art itself and be an art towards change, right? So I know a lot of your pieces are very empowering. You're always kind of having people reflect and think about how they can make positive change. And I really love that, is that through your art, through your colorful creations, you're questioning others and you're encouraging others to make change and make positive choices. So that's really a beautiful way to do so through art. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
So I know you said you have many ways that you create your work, but you have kind of defined yourself as a graffiti pop artist. Can you tell us where you get a lot of your inspiration? Are there other artists or movements or colors or things that tend to inspire you as you create your work?
Absolutely. So like the definition of pop art is popular, right? So it's something about it that is fashionable or appealing to the now. And so that's why I kind of like remix it because I'm a graffiti artist, but it is pop. And I feel like the way that I utilize color and just like this piece over my shoulder here, I'm very
Yeah.
much inspired by Andy Warhol. He's a phenomenal pop artist. And so I find inspiration from things that are happening now, fashion, colors. I don't know if you noticed, but I really get into colors. If you can't,
It's your jam, absolutely.
it's my jam. I think that people really, everybody sees it, and it's kind of like what I call visually delicious. It's like, oh, I just
Yes.
love looking at those
Love
colors
it.
together, right? And
Yeah.
so the visual periodicity is I paint the music you can see. So when you see my work, like these pieces over here, it's abstract graffiti art because I want people to see this is graffiti, but it doesn't have to be a cartoon character. It doesn't have to be words. I want you to
Mm-hmm.
understand that this is the raw, organic paint stroke that makes this, in essence, graffiti art, right? And I paint in a way with all of these X's and O's and all of these little rhythmic things that makes your eye travel through the work intentionally. So you're experiencing the painting as if you were experiencing music.
I love it. I love it. It's like there's so many ways to be an artist, right? You're like a chef creating a dish because it's so delicious, right?
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
and there's so many little pieces to kind of get caught up in, like a little scavenger hunt for what connects to you. So I definitely see that in your work for sure. So I know graffiti tends to be, I mean, as an elementary art teacher, I've definitely never done actual graffiti with my students. We've done drawing of graffiti. We've had, alphabet letters. In fact, we were inspired by your work and did our own kind of positive spin on graffiti this year. And my students
Oh,
absolutely loved watching your video with PBS Kids. So I will go ahead and show that in the art event story after this. You'll want to check it out. It's super fun, and you did an amazing job in it. And
thank you. Thank
yes.
you.
So I will be sharing that for everybody to check out, so in case you're looking for a video to share with your students. But I know graffiti can be a tricky way, or just working with spray paint, and kind of the materials are a little bit next level when it comes to, toxicity or management of what that looks like. So anybody, whether it's an educator or creative or an older student, can you give us any tips about how we can start working with spray paint and graffiti that can be helpful to just begin? What does that look like for you as a beginner? Well, you're not a
Well,
beginner, but as somebody that would like to
I,
begin.
I think, well, I still am. I'm forever learning, and so I'm still a beginner and an infant in some things. I try to stay that way, so you're like ever evolving. But to
Yes.
answer your question, so there are a lot of different elements out there as well. Misconception is graffiti equals spray paint. That's not true. That's not necessarily
Yeah.
true. Just because I'm using a pencil doesn't mean that it's realism, right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
and so
Absolutely.
I'm trying to kind of like compartmentalize the way of thinking that, oh, graffiti is vandalism with spray paint. No, like
Yeah.
it is literally, it's like music you can see. That's why graffiti is hip hop. You look at it and you get that expression. It is of the culture. And so from that culture there's evolved this beautiful art style. But I think some things that you can do with your students is there are materials, like for example, there's actually indoor spray paint.
Oh, nice.
I
I
know
did
it's a
not
new
know that.
product. It's a new product. It's by Montana Market. Actually, one second, I'm gonna grab a can up here.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued because
All right.
that's a huge positive.
So this is
Oh.
it's water based. So essentially, if you think of like typical spray paint, it's solvent. So you can
Yeah.
think of it like regular spray paint, like industrial spray paint that you buy from Lowe's or something like that. It's solvent and pigment, right?
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
water based. So it's the same amount of paint in this smaller can, but because it doesn't have the solvent in it,
So it'll last the same. It'll last as long, even
it's
though
the
it's a
same amount
smaller
of
can.
paint. It's the same amount of
What's
paint. So it's okay.
You just blew my mind. I was like,
I
wait, I have so many questions. Like,
it's very new.
yeah.
It's very new. And you can't buy this at regular paint stores. I actually buy this at the Lookout Supply here in Columbus, Ohio. If you
Nice.
guys look for water-based spray paint, you can Google that. This one is particularly from Montana Colors. You can order this online. And you can switch out the caps just like you do with like Cobra paint or something like that. So it's more forgiving as far as like getting on stuff because it is a water-based paint. So that's one thing, but I would still suggest that you do this with like older kids.
Sure.
If you're working with like young kids, stencils are awesome. You can show them artwork like Banksy. It's really easy to do. And I do these things like when I do my paint and sip parties, or like I also do these, I do these workshops with kids as well. So any educators out there, if you guys want me to do a workshop with your kids, just slide into the DM and let me know.
Yes.
I'm also willing to travel within range. So there's a lot of different techniques you can do. Collage is another one that's really cool, like wheat paste. There are paint markers. I think that would probably be the best way to do it if I was working with kids, is to have them work with like paint markers, acrylic, where they have these different size caps.
Right.
And so if I was an art teacher, I was trying to teach my students graffiti art, I probably would start with something really basic, like give them a couple shapes and then explain to them how there are these certain lines. There's a certain way that you can kind of like layer these lines. You have like a solid in the middle, and you have a highlight on the outside, and then you usually have like a big thick black line that goes around it, you know. So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of like experiment with it. But I'll tell you a story. I was a part of the Hip Hop Origins with VHB, and we were on a school tour. And at one of those school tours, I did a live art piece with students.
That's awesome.
And it changed the way I painted forever, because I had to be forgiving within the creative process. And I didn't realize that incorporating your mistakes as beautiful accidents, it takes on those things where you see like the drips and the splatters, and now I do those things intentionally. And that was definitely an experience where I learned from the children. So it is a less formal way of painting, but it's fun. So make it fun and let them kind of like make a discovery. I think that's the other thing that's really cool about graffiti, and why it's so hard to define it, is because it's really based on the individual style of every single person who's doing it.
Yeah, I love that. I love, first of all, obviously, like taking that live painting and turning it into something that you can then model for the students about, like, I don't really love what happened over here, but I'm going to change it up. I'm going to turn it into something that I can be excited about, even if it's not going exactly like you had planned. Because as art teachers, we see that all the time with our students, and it's really great to show them how to work through those problems. Now, not surprisingly, you got a bunch of questions here in the chat about the paint. So it's an aerosol can, correct? For that.
This is an aerosol can. Yeah.
Okay. And then do you have like an estimate on price for like what that looks like? Because
I think they're probably about $8 a can.
But you know, if you kind of have a small collection and students are maybe doing smaller pieces like stencils, or it's like in addition,
like as a stencil. I mean, you're not going to have kids out there doing like a whole tag.
For sure.
You know, but I think that this would be a good one to do with stencils. So you could do something really simple. Like you could start off with, okay,
I'm glad
I have all these sample examples here. You can start off with something like this.
Yeah.
Where you're kind of like spraying it randomly, like, you know, kind of like allowing there to be like this element of improvising, right?
Yeah.
Then you could have a stencil. Okay. I don't have any in reach, but stencils are really, especially if you have a Cricut. Yeah. Cricuts are awesome for making stencils. I know you teachers out there have Cricuts.
A lot of them.
I know you do. And you can make the stencils and then just have them lay it on there, and then just one quick spray. It really doesn't take a lot. And boom, there you have it. That's your graffiti art project. And then the kids can go in and like draw around it or add accents to it. It's not as complicated as it seems. I think people still feel like it's like a taboo art form. Yeah. And so they're like, oh, I don't want to encourage kids to vandalize. It's like, no, you can encourage them and educate them how to treat this as a respectful, formal art form, as opposed to, you know, just assuming like, oh, if I teach you graffiti or if I say graffiti, I'm telling you to be a vandal. No,
Right.
that's not true. You're just telling them to find whatever their artistry is.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously
Mm-hmm.
starting those conversations about where and when and how it is appropriate to, I mean, there's ways where it is vandalism. So when is it vandalism, and when does it look, you know, when is it appropriate if you have permission, if you're creating something on your own space or not on a wall or whatever, because the
Mm-hmm.
kids have a lot of opinions about that. And I think it's fun to almost start a conversation or a, you know, debate about what that looks like and how is it defined as well. So I got to ask, like, process wise, because I do use a little bit of spray paint in my own personal work, and I find that my caps often get like pretty jammed, and I'll like tip them upside down and air them out at the end, and then I'll try to remove the caps. But like, what technical things do we need to know in order to keep our materials clean so they last longer? What kinds of things have you learned through doing this to maintain your actual materials so you can continue your process?
So part of the reason why I do a lot of upcycling with the cans and the can art, it's because there is a lot of waste.
Mm-hmm.
To be quite frank with you, the caps are meant to be disposable. You probably
Right.
get a couple good uses out of them. I'll tell you one trick that you can do is you can buy aerosol acetone.
Okay.
And so that's how I keep my caps to keep them clean. So after I'm done using it in this can, I'll take the cap off, put it on the acetone can, spray it a couple times, and what that's going to do is it's going to clear all of the paint out of it.
Oh, sure,
So,
sure.
yeah, but even still, depending on if it's really hot outside, how long you're using that, that's all kind of like a variable. So,
Right.
but in short, buy a can of aerosol acetone, and as soon as you're done using your paint, clean it out with the acetone and just store it that way.
Okay, love it. That's amazing. So, I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but talking about how you're using your cans to then create additional artwork. So, I would love to hear what you kind of title, I guess, as dead cans. When you're done with your work, can you tell us a little bit about that project and like encouraging a little more life out of your materials?
For sure. Let me just let me grab one of my.
I'm like, I know you have one over there
of
somewhere.
Of course, they're hanging out in here. So.
All your tricks around the corner.
I know. And you have kind of like a little puppet show. So
yes,
my guest stars. These are dead cans, and it's literally a can that I used, and instead of throwing it in the trash, I decompress it by popping a hole in the bottom. See that hole there?
Mm-hmm.
And then even as I'm popping the hole there, I use that to spray. Like when I did this piece, this is something that's a part of this process. So I'm trying to use as much, like use every last piece of it. I've even taken the caps and put them in like acrylic puzzles, and
cool.
I'll probably do like jewelry with the caps and things. So I'm trying to incorporate them in as many pieces as possible. Here's another one. See that big piece there?
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. That's amazing.
So, yeah, so the dead cans, it's really just like a fun project. It's fun. This has probably been some of the more popular art that I've done.
Yep.
I'm starting to do like theme specific, and they all have their own personalities that kind of like inspire whatever is written on the back of them. Mm-hmm. But I've started doing celebrities.
Ooh, that's fun.
So I haven't released it. I think the only one that I've released so far was I did ODB from Wu-Tang.
Nice.
So I'm gonna do like a Wu-Tang series.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
a little series of spray can characters.
Yeah, they're really fun. Like people love them. They remind me very much of my childhood. I love Barbies, so there was something about having a little person, like a toy.
Yeah,
can, but it's upcycled fine art, and people love it. I love these guys too.
That's so fun. Okay, so Michelle here is asking, what material do you use to create the faces on the dead cans? Like, what kind of products are you using and extra materials to add to that?
Okay, so the cool thing about this is the first time I used this type of clay was when I was like in elementary school or
Oh
middle
yeah.
school, and it was at a community center, a recreation center, and it's an air drying clay by Crayola.
Yeah, it's just,
You
is it
guys
Model
should.
Magic?
Is it
Do you
Model
know if it's
Magic? I
Model
think it
Magic?
is.
It's okay.
I think it is.
We,
I
it's not
just
a big deal. Something
yeah.
air dry.
It's an air drying clay. So there's two times. There's one that dries as a foam, and then there's one that dries as a ceramic. But the one
Oh,
that
sure.
dries like a ceramic doesn't have any color.
Okay, yeah.
So I use both.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
use both of them.
That's
So
awesome.
this is definitely a project you guys could do with your kids in school, but you definitely are going to need to use an industrial glue. So
Okay.
I wouldn't have the kids handling that part.
Because
Um,
attaching it, like the clay pieces don't necessarily stay on that shiny surface of the
Yeah,
can.
exactly. It's difficult. So you kind of have to use like I have to use like epoxies, like the strongest glues that I can. Like, but there are other ways that you could do it. Once again, you could use the Cricut to cut out like pre-designed shapes of like the mouths or the eyes or whatever, and then you can allow
Mm-hmm.
the kids to put those together. And there's some really cool material you could do that with, like that flat, like the sheets of foam.
Yeah,
I think you can still kind of get like the same effect. Like when working with kids, I wouldn't give them the epoxy glue because
for sure.
that could be a mess.
That's a little tricky. That's only for our older students, I think, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
And I
absolutely.
I mean, I have one of my students, her parent owns a paint company, so he was gonna start collecting a bunch of spray paint cans for us, which was super exciting, so that we can kind of connect with a local business, and instead of them disposing of them, use them for an art project. So that's really fun. Or, we were even thinking about taking it to the next level. And what materials do you feel like go to waste in your own art room? So like glue bottles that are empty, that you're not going to refill anymore, that might be a little crusty or dry, or glue stick tubes, or and then turn those into little creatures and characters, so that we're kind of adding and creating something that's dead, but then bringing it back to life. So I love that concept too, about kind of upcycling, and the kids just love doing anything sculptural. So
Oh
if you're
yeah,
gonna
of
toss
course.
something, what can you make with it, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like they love to make their own toys. I know when I was a kid, I loved doing that. Like it's like they always end up playing with the things that aren't actually intended. Like they're playing with a box, or
Right.
they're picking up a little piece. And I mean the beautiful thing about that is that that's just a child that's like engaging in their imagination. So
Yeah.
it's things that they would do naturally anyway. So if you just kind of like give them a few extra art supplies, then
Right.
it might turn
Right.
out to
Encourage
be
that
me one day.
conversation. Absolutely. Get that creativity going, and give them a space to let it run free, so that we can allow them to think about and experiment with what that looks like. Um, well, okay, so we clearly have a lot of art educators that are watching, but other creatives and other people that are kind of interested in how they could incorporate some of this positivity and thoughtfulness into their own artwork. But let's bring it back to when you were actually in school, or any time that you've had any art experiences. I would like to ask about what do you either really love from your time as learning through art education, or anything you wish that you could have changed, or anything you wish would have been told to you or encouraged from you. As an art teacher, we love to know what we can do or what's working.
Well, I think I'm a product of having a whole line of great art teachers. I think
That's great.
like the teachers automatically just kind of scooped me up because I was an artistic child. My parents encouraged me. I was really quiet, and it was just, I got good grades, and I was an artist. That was just always the thing. And so because my parents didn't really have to encourage me to get good grades, people were always just piling art supplies on me. And it's just like give them the tools. And then they would take me to the gallery hop, like in the short north, or they'll take me to the theater. And I was a part of these really cool programs where they would give us free tickets to like the opera, or to Romeo and Juliet, or what that type of
Yeah.
thing. So um, I had some great mentors. Like the first time my art was exhibited, I was in the fourth grade. So teachers out there, like if you see that kid that has that has like a talent, think there's something special about them, give them that little opportunity to shine. So then they can see it within themselves, like, oh wow, I'm actually an artist. And so I
Yeah.
started to own that as at a very young age. and be confident in that. And I wasn't a very confident kid. I was very quiet. I was a nerd. We moved a lot. We were poor. So I had all of these things where I felt like I was suppressed as a child, but art was my liberation. And I would spend a lot of time by myself, like drawing and sketching and coloring and things like that. But as far as the one thing that I wish, in hindsight, I wish I would have continued learning to airbrush. I started learning to
Oh,
airbrush when I was like in the 4th grade, and I'm like, man, I would have been phenomenal by now if I kept doing that.
excuse me for 1 second. Sorry, my Siri went on here. If yes, like things that you wish you had just taken a little extra time
Mhm.
to put that energy in earlier, like and then grow that from there a little bit too. Are you still doing some airbrushing now? You just wish you had built that up a little bit earlier?
I'm spray painting now. It's
That's true.
similar.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
still
It's
very
very it's
similar.
very similar for sure.
It's just a matter of material. I mean, I mix it up and change it around. But I think also I know some people personally who are like phenomenal airbrush artists. So I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm gonna leave that to them. I'm gonna let you do that. I'm gonna do this over here.
Yep.
um, but I guess like in hindsight, I don't have any regrets about my creative experience. Like even in times where you might have felt frustrated, or things may have not been going the way you want it to. That's part of what makes you an artist. Is sort of like that struggle that you're going through, where it's like, I feel this compassion and this tension about this creative process, and I have to get it out, and it's inescapable. It's like anybody that's ever gone through challenges as an artist, you come out on the other end more of an
Yeah.
artist.
Absolutely. And even if that's happening, in your own personal space or in your own personal artwork, because we're creative people, because we're artists, it's like we all know what that feels like too. So it kind of brings you together in the way that like we've all felt like there's that piece that you're kind of just, it's not working for me. I got to change it. I got to connect. I need opinions. I need people to kind of help me with it. And that's nice
Mm-hmm.
to know that there's, it is something that naturally happens for all artists anyways, and so that's really cool that you've felt that along the way for sure. Nice. I mean, again, us educators are like, okay, picking up every little tidbit of what's standing out, what is anything that we need to add to us as educators to just encourage more from our students. But I'm glad to hear that you felt supported and were encouraged as a young artist, because it is clear, again, you're surrounded by your work, Felicia, that that it is a huge and entirely huge important part of your life. Can you tell us just real quick, what is one of your favorite pieces you've created?
Oh gosh, that's tough. That's hard to say. I think as mural wise, the one that was really special to me was the one that I did at the Aquatic Center.
Ooh,
And that's because that particular place is just, it's so nostalgic. It has a special place in my heart. What you guys don't know about me is I'm an aquatics expert. So I've
ooh,
actually worked in aquatics. I've trained lifeguards and I've taught swim lessons and water aerobics for about 22 years now.
that's awesome.
So that place is the first place where I worked at. I'm actually going to be working the front desk again this summer just to be back in the space,
Yeah, nice.
It's where I taught my kids how to swim. My oldest son works there now, or he worked there over the summer. So it was really awesome to have the opportunity to put that on the wall, because I know how that space needed it, and I know how the children and the community are going to be reacting to it. I was a part of the discussion and kind of like the initial idea. So I think that is probably the most involved project, where like it's personal, like I really
Yeah,
feel like it's my mural,
yeah, absolutely.
as opposed to something I gave away. So that one has like a really special place in my heart.
I love it. And it's, especially since it's a place in particular that means a lot to you, it's like you even more so want it to be meaningful because it's like part of who you are as a person.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
really fun. I love it. So I got two more questions for you, but before we do our little trivia giveaway for anybody that would like their hands on these really cool stickers.
Ooh, I've
So
got a
I just,
sticker too.
yes, there you go. You got stickers coming from both sides. Let's see your sticker because I'm obsessed.
Sticker.
Yes, the speech bubble coming full circle. Okay, so FTZ, she's in here. She's ready to give y'all some stickers. So I would like to know, like I said, our students this year have done a project inspired by your positive graffiti, but I know it can be really nice to show students many artists that are working, many artists that are creatives. So what message do you have for students to create empowering graffiti and empowering work? What would you tell students now?
I would say if you're given the opportunity to work on a community project, absolutely, absolutely go for it. And if you guys see a blank wall at your school and you have an idea, share it. That's really the positive way to go about getting creating public art. Um, Even if you're frustrated, because I think that that's where the vandalism kind of it comes from, someone feeling frustrated. But there's a way that you can turn that into positivity. There's a way that you can say something and actually have people hear you, as opposed to just creating offense.
Yeah.
Offense is not going to take on the change that you want, especially if you feel frustrated or compassionate about something. But I would say if you have an idea, share it. Put it out into the world and you share it with your teacher and you say, hey, I really want to paint a wall that is about our community, or that, reminds me of my past, or I really love this farmer's market or whatever. And you can get people together. People will come behind you and support you. You can get funding. There are people out there who need your artwork. They need your creative ideas to put out there. So I say go for it and lead with positivity and lead with purpose.
That's beautiful, Felicia. Thank you so much. I know students can feel that energy, right? It's like something where maybe you're feeling that frustration, and that's what can lead to vandalism. But that energy is just built up frustration, or sorry, the frustration is built up energy. So instead of using that energy towards negativity, turn it towards something positive, just like you as our inspiration. Thank you for sharing those kind words. And lastly, kind of turning towards our teachers, our adults, our big kid artists, what parting advice or words of encouragement do you have for us? I know this year has come with its struggles and its celebrations, but what kind of advice do you have for us as we continue to move forward through this year?
I would say don't be silent.
Mm-hmm.
If you have something to say, there is a way that you can say it so that people can receive it. But be thoughtful and considerate. Even if you're saying something to someone you feel is the opposition, deliver it in a way that is receivable. That's the beauty about art. Art doesn't always have to be pretty. Like that piece right there. That piece is really kind of dark, and it's not all, roses and rainbows all the time. And it's okay to feel that way. And it's okay to paint those things, but do it in a way that's constructive, that's respectable, and people will respect what you have to say and what your art is. Also, everyone's art is different. Sometimes people will look at what they did and say, oh, that doesn't look like my favorite artist, or that doesn't look like this. Art is not about getting an A. It's not about getting an A. It's about how you feel when you're expressing yourself in your artwork. And then when you put all of that expression in your work, it's going to inspire someone else because they're going to see you pouring yourself into it. So be uninhibited with whatever your expression is, but be respectful and constructive about how you deliver it.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. Leading with positivity, being thoughtful, but also using that art as an expression and as a way to get those feelings, those thoughts, those questions out, because that's the perfect mobile, right? the way to take that art path. Thank you so much for joining us. Before you go, I'm gonna give y'all a quick chance to win one of our holographic stickers. It sounds like Felicia has some dope stickers too as well. So maybe we'll kind of collaborate, so she can either just mail them to you, or she can send them to me and I'll send you all some stickers at the same time. So we'll get it worked out. But we're gonna have one friend win one of these really cool stickers if you can answer our trivia question in the chat here correctly first. So the question is, What does Felicia call her old spray paint can characters? The hints on the screen. Again, what does Felicia call her old spray paint can characters? I always love this part, waiting, because it gives us, it's like 10 seconds and then we're going to get 5 people answering. Yes! AK Childers. Dead cans, baby. Oh, y'all are getting it. Okay, first one I saw was AK Childers. So, let's see, at AK Childers, if you want to just message the Art of Ed and say, hey, I won the chat, and then send me your address, we can send you your stickers. So thank you all so much for watching. I'm going to be saving this to our IGTV so you can watch it again or share it with your friends and other art teachers and educators and creative people, and your students hopefully too, because again, Felicia's work is so amazing and perfect to incorporate into your classroom and get conversations started. So I'll be sharing a few more, including the video, maybe a link to those super cool water-based spray paints we're all real excited about, and where you can follow her in the future. So Felicia, where can people follow you on Instagram, and what do they need to know about collecting any of your work?
So you guys can follow me at FDZ Graffiti, and the cool thing is once you put in FDZ, you'll find me. So that's also fdzgraffiti.com, and graffiti is spelled with 2 F's and 1 T. And
Beautiful.
you can Google me. I pop up on everything. You just put it in the Google search. I have a variety of different exhibits and things that are going to be going on. So make sure you guys follow me. You could turn on your notifications. And I'm also going to be traveling with some of these paint and sip parties that I'm going to be doing. So I might be coming to a city near you.
Ooh.
You can also make a request in the DM if you guys would like me to come to your school and do a project, or if you'd like me to come and do a paint and sip party. I also do like corporate parties and professional developments and things like that.
I love it.
Just ask.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your beautiful work and positivity with the world, Felicia. We will chat later. Bye, friend.
Bye. Thank you, guys.